And welcome to the Osceola County School District School Board meeting for Tuesday, October 22nd. Tonight we will have invocation by Father Derek Saldana from St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church, our Pledge of Allegiance led by Tony Rappanese, Supervisor of Social Services, our national anthem performed by students from the St. Cloud High Chorus Harmonics Group. Mission statement will be read by Tammy Combs, the choral director of St. Cloud High School, and our interpretation services will be read by Ivani Garcia, our coordinator of multicultural department. If you will now please stand with me for the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, and national anthem.
Let us bow our heads as we seek the Lord's blessing tonight. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise for the gift of life. We thank you for all the blessings you pour out on us. Today, in a special way, we thank you for the gift of education and for educators who help us encounter you as we open our minds to the world around us. We ask you, Lord, to bless our superintendent, all the teachers and staff of Osceola County Schools. May they be blessed with all the graces they need to educate and form our children. We pray for the outpouring of your Spirit on the board members and on this board meeting here tonight. Give them courage to make decisions and enact policies that help our children become the best version of the persons you created them to be. We ask this in your most precious name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight were the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets like lead, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free?
Inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Good afternoon, my name is Ivonne Garcia and I am here to provide interpretation services. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ivonne Garcia y estoy aquí para proveer servicios de interpretación.
Now we have positive comments by our board members and our superintendent. Mr. Ramsey, I'll start with you.
So last week was kind of a busy week. Had the privilege to go work the Harmony High School shelter, and that was it was a fun experience. I enjoyed it. I'd like to thank Mr. Hickey and his staff for what they do out there. I'd like to thank the county volunteers that come also helped, and also the county sheriff's office that worked it. I also was able to visit Hickory Trail Elementary School this past Friday for Rock the Tree, and that was a really fun event. Got to see kids dressed up in every classroom had different themes, so all the kids dressed up differently. And then I had probably my favorite part of the day. I got to go to St. Cloud High School and spend about 30-45 minutes with the Best Buddies Club in the cafeteria, and I got to spend time with them, and that's a really good program, and if you don't know about it, I would like for y'all to look into it and try to go join and visit with them, because that's a really good organization.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in the spirit of speaking of the shelters, I did want to just give a big shout out to all the teams that worked the shelters during the hurricane. Mr. Noble, I've heard that you did an excellent job mobilizing everyone, so I really wanted to thank you publicly for that. Of course, Dr. Shanoff as well, you were giving us updates as they happened, but also the community members that partnered with the schools specifically to provide additional support, particularly the Central Florida Indian community, Embrace Celebration, the Celebration community, and of course all the principals who were really just active and serving the community during that time. I also want to congratulate Debbie McDonald and the Celebration volunteers for a massively successful volunteer fair at Celebration High School a couple of weeks ago. Thank you so much for your partnership and bringing information to our students about how they can get those very, very important volunteer hours. And a couple weeks ago, Chair Cahoon and I attended the FSBA Board of Directors retreat in Okaloosa County, almost in Alabama. That was a great way for us to connect with other board members, learn from them, and it was a really productive meeting, including a really great workshop that was led by former board chair Tim Weisire. And finally, this morning, a little birdie told me some great news. I don't know if y'all remember a couple weeks, maybe a couple months ago at this point, I had some interns come, and I recognized them for just their enthusiasm and their work. They were IT interns, and I just heard that 4 of them are now employees of the district, and most of them are working as technicians and network, what do we call it, network engineers? Some IT great stuff. So just wanted to call that out, call out their mentors for helping them to become employees, and just again a testament to the Grow Your Own program that we have here at Osceola. And with that, I yield my time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I want to just second the fact that we had so many people come together during Hurricane Milton. I too heard that Mr. Noble did a great job, his first time really having to jump in and organize something of that size and that caliber. I think we are going to recognize some people at our next meeting. There just wasn't enough time, and we had so many presentations on this agenda, so I look forward to doing that at our next meeting. I also want to give a shout out to Osceola High School's choir, because they were selected and notified this week that they will be performing at Epcot's Candlelight Processional on Saturday, December 7th at 5 o'clock. So I was very excited to hear about that, and I plan to go see them do that. They did a really great announcement to the students to surprise them with that this past week. And then finally, I want you to make sure you're watching the social medias for all the different schools and departments over the next couple weeks and look back at some of the last ones because they've been announcing their Teacher of the Year and their School-Related Employee of the Years. And so it's always an exciting time to see those teachers and those staff members be recognized. And it'll culminate later on this school year with our education awards. So that's always fun and exciting to see. Mr. Arquette.
Thank you. So this is my last meeting as a school board member. There's a lot of thanks that I would love to hand out to people. I wish I could say it's been an honor, but nothing about politics over the last 60 years has been truly honorable. I think that we all realize that. When truth is not what's spoken, when intentions and agendas have to be masked, disguised, and misrepresented in order to make them palatable, there's no honor in promoting them. But more important than honor is humility, and I'm eternally grateful for the humbling experience that this has been. A reminder of what public service is supposed to be and who it is supposed to serve is what this has been for me, and I'm indebted to every single person, friend, or foe for the experience. Mostly one of tribulation, which Jesus has promised us. Without that, there would be no meaning to it. So for the last time as a school board member, let me express gratitude first to the teachers in Paris who sacrifice on a daily basis their backs upon which we lay a practically impossible burden. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I hope I have served you well. I can say that my presence on this board made it possible for you to make some progress, at least in terms of sick pay and sick time and pay. Those are just two ways. But even more important than that I provided all of you, and I hope that you all felt that you had someone who had a voice up here that would fight with you and for you, that you could depend on to do that. To the thousands of support staff who make up the mortar, who hold together the blocks of every wall of this district, you feed our kids, you guard our campuses, you clean the floors, you pay our bills, you replace light bulbs, you transport our kids, and step in wherever you are needed. I appreciate you all for your underappreciated and sometimes unseen work. I have watched it. Administrators. I've received a lot of grief from administrators since I've been here. Many challenged a lot of my statements from this dais in private, and in private, many of you have acknowledged that what I've said is true. You are in such a precarious position. You have the most to lose by doing what is right, and at the same time, the sacred responsibility for doing it at your own peril. Dangerous truths are always blessings to the community, but burdens on the leaders through whom they must be communicated. To my friends and supporters, many of you I'm sure are going to be here tonight. In you, I have found the family that I lost when I left the Army. Camaraderie, fun, commitment, dependability, friends with which to revel in our victories and console one another in our defeats. As the only legitimate conservative local elected official in this county, we are few, but we have had an impact on our community for the better. You are true patriots. You come here because you love our community, our country, and our students. We don't see the people who complain about taking porn out of schools or complain when we fight to give a student access to chaplains. They don't show their faces when we talk about outcomes or curriculum or the well-being of our students. They only come to satisfy their incensed ideologies, and they only show that zeal if they would only show that zeal in protecting our kids. But few who have showed up all this time, we prevented ridiculously stupid mask mandates. We exposed horrendously biased educational ideals in CRT. We highlighted the disgustingly inappropriate sexualized materials and forced the school board to acknowledge their existence through their denials and lies. We forced the changing of the guard, even if that same old guard bought and paid for their surrogates to sit in those same seats. We did what the community called on us to do, and today the students are better off for it. Students know this, that even when you did not know it, a man who loves you, not because he knows you, but because of what you represent, a hopeful and bright future, a country filled with men and women of compassion and justice and truth, is the greatest purpose on earth, and you are worth fighting for and over. That's where purpose comes from, not from silly ideologies or fad movements, but the one truth no one can dispel, that we are one, that we come from one body, that we will return to that one body after a short time on this earth, that we all have the same set of true experiences, excitement, pain, happiness, sadness, love. Every human experiences these things. No matter where they come from or what they look like or what language they speak. Mothers around the world weep for their children in the same way. I've seen that happen in multiple languages and multiple cultures. But the tears that fall from a mother's cheek and for her children is the same everywhere. So keep in mind, students, that overall human experience is the same in French, German, Swahili, or English. And truth is exactly what we should be teaching you. Everything that you learn in school should be based on truth and delivered through an institution that operates in truth. Our only agenda should be focused on the delivery of truth to the minds of the young, which is our constitutional as well as our sacred duty. To be clear, our agenda should not be the same as those of lobbyists, construction companies, vendors, landowners, developers, or even the careers of educrats, and far less the political careers and ambitions of people so willing to confuse the mission of the district and turn a blind eye for theirs or someone else's benefit. These things could be balanced in a good district, believe me. Students, you deserve a pure education free of bias, free of ulterior motives, free of schemes and interference of those happy to take advantage of you. You deserve an education system based in truth and executed with love. That is something I have been proud to fight for. To the community at large, I'm eternally grateful to you for the opportunity to serve you. I, a man from humble beginnings, am proud to say that I have achieved success in this country that I love, if success is in service. I have served her in war, and not just in war, but in combat, close enough to the enemies of this country to hear their voices. And now I have served my community, again, close enough to hear the voices of the enemy. And I have done both wholeheartedly. But most importantly, I did without gaining a single thing. I leave office with less money than I had going in. I have gone from a comfortable six-figure income to essentially the salary of a teacher. I took nothing from this position. While most politicians ask for favors and enrich themselves through opportunities offered to them, I rejected those offers. I didn't take a job I didn't deserve or wasn't qualified for. I didn't take a dime from anyone. And I kept my word to the people of Osceola County regardless of the cost, and it was a heavy one. At the end of the day, as George Washington said, the discharge of this trust, I will only say that I have, with good intentions, contributed towards the organization and administration of the government, the best exertions of which a very fallible judgment was capable. By services faithful and preserving through inusefulness, though in usefulness, unequal to my zeal. I would say this to my fellow school board members, I will pray for you. I am proof that redemption is never beyond the grasp of those who reach for it. I will say this, if you're enjoying it too much, you're not protecting what's important. Shepherds are not glamorous jobs, but they protect what is important, and they've been entrusted with so much. So if you're not fighting the wolves, you may want to reflect, because you may be howling at the expense of our children. Our political offices were intended to be temporary, intended to be sacrifices by our best and most qualified. These were roles supposed to be filled by our leaders, not figuratively, but literally. Too often this board has failed to lead because its true leaders are in the shadows, and only villains hide in the shadows. To everyone in the district, especially its own leaders, if we are to have a district that excels, we must reject the sentiment of invisible enemies that ignore the real enemy. On this dais, a superintendent told me that my two sons would have been treated differently because one had dark hair and dark eyes and was dark complected, and one had blonde hair and blue eyes. It doesn't matter that their father was the same. It doesn't matter which was favored, it's wrong. The true enemy is reckless immorality. and allowing it to be the dominant culture on our campuses. Education must be enjoined with morality, and good policy must equally enjoin it. An education system without nobility is barbarism. It's impossible to achieve justice and benevolence without it. What difference does it make if you can read, but there is nothing good to read? And I don't mean fun, I mean good. Put aside the imaginary common interests of transgender ideology, reverse racism, hypersexualization of our children, and internal strife against what is good and moral. It's simply contrary to the natural yearning of man to be good and do right. I beg you, don't let school playgrounds continue to be the battlefields of good and evil. Push the enemy into the world of adults where it belongs and protect our children. I know I have committed many errors as a school board member, and I ask God and those affected to forgive me. But in spite of how much you hold against me, the future of our country requires the recovery of our morale, which begins with our morals. Secondly, don't conflate what you gain with your decisions as a school board member, especially your vanity, pride, or greed. Rediscover the values that are worthy of your positions in our common sense. A friend of mine told me, and I'm almost done, that my no was very powerful, has become a very powerful word. I ask you to find your no. Be wary, be accountable. One thing is obvious to me, the expansion of our district means a contraction of accountability. Avoid the kingdom building. This world only has one true king and only one worthy kingdom. I pray for your success, not for your public relations success or your personal ambition success, but the type of success that leads to good men and women leading the future from this district. Dr. Shanoff, I have much respect for you. I truly believe you are the most able to right this ship. You and I may not agree on what that may mean, but I do trust your judgment, and I know that your intentions are good. I believe you are a good man. I can see that in the way that you interact with your child. So I leave not sad or or with regrets, but I leave gratified and grateful, feeling my mission is completed. And lastly, and most importantly, Lord, I surrender this district to you. I pray that your will be done here. For the one thing I have learned is that only God can keep our country and children free of fault and failure. To that end, thank you, Osceola County, and God bless you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I am very grateful for the honor to have been on the school board. And I had the opportunity to be elected in 2008 when the economy fell. There was the real estate collapse. Everyone was talking about closing schools. And I remember when I got to new school board member orientation, people were like, why are you running for office? There's going to be no money, no budgets. I'm like, well, the challenge is where the growth is. That's when you need it the most. And so in 2020, it almost feels like deja vu. When I ran for re-election for the second time, we had the pandemic. And I remember the pandemic vividly. It happened specifically during spring break. And I don't think that people really appreciate the Herculean effort it took everyone to right the ship. I mean, literally, staff was on vacation when everything went dark. And they were like, there's gonna be no classrooms, no face-to-face, everything's gonna be virtual, everything's gonna be online. We had to figure things out, we had to redo curriculums. I mean, the fact that, and then also, we had to do one-to-one digital devices to every single student. That didn't exist before the pandemic. People may not realize that in Orange County, they had one-to-one devices, but that was something that we had to implement immediately. We had to, get all these computers up and running, we had to wipe viruses, we had to come up with warranties because kids might, breaking them accidentally. I mean, the fact that we got this district up and running was really a miracle. But not just a miracle, it was intentional because every single person did their effort. And that's something that as a school board member, I really appreciate. And those who know me know that, just like other folks, I'm not the only one, but, I attended every single graduation, not just those that were in my district. I took phone calls from folks, whether they were in St. Cloud or they were in Poinciana. I never played the district card and said, oh, you don't live in District 2, I'm not gonna help you. So I can honestly say that, I did my best to make sure that parent concerns and student concerns were addressed throughout the entire district. And I love how the staff was willing to help me out too. It was two ways. Every time I visit somebody, they're like, oh, how can I do, what can we do to help? Like for instance, we visited Parton Southern Elementary, and I don't like to just visit a school and just say thank you. I say, what can we do to be better? In Parton Southern, it was a school of hard of hearing, and they were talking about they needed replacement parts for their earpieces. Well, I said, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. So we went back and got it corrected. So we always try to be better, and perfection is just sometimes a key that, you strive for, but we understand that perfection is like really, really hard to make, you know what I mean? But the reality is, if we make progress and sit there and say, hey, this is where we want to go, we'll get there. And I can honestly say that we've, had a couple of, pretty good accomplishments. When the pandemic happened, there were job vacancies everywhere. We had to create a big bus, banner that said, desperately seeking bus drivers. And the fact is, to this day, we still have some vacancies, but they're a lot less than what they were. We flew all the way to Puerto Rico to recruit, teachers because University of Central Florida was only graduating so much, but people don't realize that Orange County was looking for teachers too. So was Polk County. We're all tapping from the same well. So we got creative and said, wait a second, how can we take this to the next level and try to fill those vacancies? Because we feel that a certified teacher in the classroom is the best way to move students forward academically. We looked at dual enrollment programs. We've expanded. When I first got elected back in 2008, the only dual enrollment program we had was Valencia, and sometimes we had a UCF. Now we had at the University of Florida, we had at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. We work with OTEC now, and OTEC is now valued. As a matter of fact, the Prosper program, some people may not know, they think it's just Valencia. No, it includes Osceola Technical College too, and we've done our best to promote students to get them future ready. As this district understood that not everyone's gonna go the traditional four-year college route, that some people have, different, aspirations for what they wanna do. Also, safety and security, it's a new reality. Man, it's sad that we have all these school shootings, active shooter events, but we can say that our students have developed a positive relationship with our administration and our security because we've had multiple loaded gun incidents on campus, multiple, but all of them were reported. You didn't hear about it being fired because students felt safe to approach staff, to approach our SROs, our law enforcement officers, and inform them ahead of time, and we're able to get in front of that. So I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud of the SRO task force that created a safety and security committee meeting. So we actually have regular meetings where we talk about student discipline data. We talk about measures like random searches and metal detectors and other ways that we can make this district better. And as well, we also created an SRO appreciation ceremony. That is very important because I was in the military, just like my buddy here, Mr. Arguello, but I was a combat medic. And people who don't know about combat medics, we get assigned to units during war. So I train with one unit, but then when I go to war, I go with somebody totally different. So I'm like in limbo. The new unit doesn't really acknowledge me as their in person, but then my unit doesn't see what I've done because they're not with me. That's the same thing that happens with an SRO. They're full-time enforcers from their agency. They work for the sheriff, but they're physically at our campus, so they're not our employee. So Mark Shanoff and I, and the rest of the school board, Dr. Shanoff, I apologize, we actually decided to honor their service. And we created the very first SRO appreciation ceremony, and you should see everybody. It was the first time that they got together, because it was KPD, St. Cloud Police Department, and even the Sheriff's Office. They got together, and it was almost like nostalgic. They came back and said, oh yeah, what year did you graduate? What school did you go to? And we didn't realize how the schools really brings people together. And the other thing that we did as well, because I have a bunch of lists here, but I just want to say that, we really accomplished a lot. The Small Business and Veteran Advisory Office, led by Katrina Ponzi, that was very important because we felt like the district was growing so fast. We were spending billions of dollars in contracts. We wanted to make sure that our small businesses and our local vendors were getting a piece of that action as well, that they weren't getting lost. Because we felt that if people were getting contracts locally, they're going to be more invested in the schools, donating back and contributing back to our schools. We have an ERP system by Mr. Thorne. I mean, you're doing phenomenal. We've heard tens of horror stories of other school districts implementing an ERP system too fast and spending that money too quickly that they've fallen on their face. The fact that is we're taking a planned, measured approach to getting there. And I appreciate you, Mr. Thorne, it's really easy to say, hey, I got the money to implement it, let's just hurry up and get it done. No, we're taking a measured approach to make sure we're doing it right. The only thing is I do wish we had the ESC committee, follow through a little bit better. We've had some recommendations. Students with special needs sometimes get lost in the shuffle, but we have to do better in that. I would like to say, all the great things we are, but the reality is there are some areas of improvement of our district. And I also want, I love OXA. OXA every single year, they win Central Ellington Best Bands of the Year, but not only that, but the community helped them. It required like $25,000 for them to go to New York and get room and board and everything. We had Disney, we had other, vendors, community members, take part in that, because I think that's important that I want to mention the arts, because it's not just academics, it's the whole student, it's the whole experience. And I believe the arts and the athletics and other things are really just key to that. And again, I could do more, but one thing I do want to conclude with is I just came back from a law enforcement conference, and they were talking about how police officers, it comes in the generation. A lot of times an officer is an officer because their father or their grandparents or their mother or sister or brother was in law enforcement community, and they felt compelled to continue that legacy of service. And when I look at the school district, it's almost the same exact thing. If you look at the average teacher, I would be surprised by a show of hands in a survey of how many people were teachers in their family that showed them that role model. And I think that's what we do as educators, is not only is it a job to put food on the table, you actually inspired your children, your next generations, by the job that you did, that you motivated them to do the same thing too. And to me, that's nobility, because nobody got into education because they wanted to get rich. Nobody says, hey, I want to be a teacher because I want to have a mansion and 3 Lamborghinis. No, they always said, at least in the very beginning, that they wanted to change lives, they wanted to be transformational, they wanted to help students achieve their fullest in life. And so that to me is deserving of that nobility and that cause of honor. And again, kind of like what Mr. Arvell mentioned, it takes everybody. I've gone into multiple schools, I see the cafeteria workers doing the best they can. I see custodians with pristine floors that you can just, dance off of, because they really did a good job. And again, Mr. Sharma, I'd be remiss to not mention you. We had a facilities meeting today. We have over 36 projects in the queue simultaneously. And we only have one facilities department. No school was delayed. All the schools open on time. And were things perfect? No, but we're a huge organization. And so I think that the expectation is not really there when you expect perfection. But I do know that everybody is really doing the best they can. And the last thing I can say is that we did hire the top. We brought in Sarah Korn, who's a new, attorney that she's by the book, and people aren't used to that. But I love that, because at the end of the day, this district is no longer small. We just can't do things on a handshake anymore. We have to be a little bit more professional, a little bit more uniform in the way that we do things. And that's where I also love Dr. Shernoff coming in at the same exact time that we're doing the strategic plan, because I think that the reality, not because the bad was past, or the past was bad, it's because we've achieved a new level of our growth and we're in a new chapter. And I really think that's a perfect opportunity for the new board members to come in, look at that strategic plan and say, hey, how can we get to where we want to be? Because at the end of the day, to me, it is an honor. It is, because I know a lot of people that spend millions of dollars in campaigns to try to get into office. And I've seen it. They've spent millions of dollars against me, So for me to be there and to have that honor of serving is just something that I'll be eternally grateful for. And I tell you right now, and I spoke with Dr. Shanoff about it before, I'm still going to, with or without the title, the principals in the audience, if you need a volunteer, let me know. If you need a donor, let me know. Because I feel so ingratiated with you guys, and I feel like I'm part of the school district, and I don't want to forget you. I don't want to just say, okay, I left the board and I'm gone. Whatever we want, last. But I think that applies to anybody. if the school district wants to be the best that it can be, let's not be afraid to tap our community's resources and get them to participate as much as possible. So with that, I know I've been long-winded, but it's truly been an honor for me. I get a little bit emotional because I really put a lot in. As folks have seen, I've gone to cafeterias, I've gone to PSC, I've gone to the warehouse, I've gone to like almost every position and try to shake as many hands as I could. And with that, Dr. Shanoff, this is in your hands now to lead us forward with the board moving in. But I just know that at least you have that institutional knowledge of where we came from and where we need to go. And I really feel that the district is in good hands. Yes. And thank you to, last thing here. I said it was the last thing, but I do appreciate my board. Even you, John, you challenge me to be better. You teach me patience and wisdom because, Lord, there's times I want to clobber you. And, I learn self-restraint with you as much as I possibly can. Sheriff Calhoun, I've seen you go out there and you are extremely active. Nobody can ever say that, you're not putting forth the effort to try to make the district as best as it can be. I mean, people can always disagree with certain positions, but they can really disagree with any position really, but they can't, question your work effort and what you put into it. Terry, man, we've gone out back and forth, but what the cool thing about you, Ms. Castillo, is that sometimes I didn't even know exactly how you're going to vote sometimes, and I appreciate that, and I do hope that you still continue that independent surge to say, follow your heart, because I know what it's like being on the board. You get pulled and drawn by different folks that have different opinions and very strong opinions on both sides, and so I just telling you right now, just keep on following your heart when you think is right, but also still listen to both sides. And that's one thing I would say to you, Mr. Ramsey, is that as a new board member, if you do win your reelection, even if you have an idea of what you want, just listen to the other side anyway. You know what I mean? Because you can always learn something. I've modified my positions a little bit because somebody has said something new that I never thought about before. So I'd say the worst thing to do as a board member is to already have your mind made up and this is exactly what I'm going to do. No, it's a good idea to be open and listen to that public comment and be able to, it's not prideful for you to say, you know what, I may have made a mistake, I was gonna vote this way, but based on new information I got, it's okay to do that. And appreciate the time you do have, because you never know, it could be taken away from you just as fast as you got it. But again, for the little time I've known you, Scott, I can't really formulate a big opinion, I just know that you seem like a nice guy, I can't say any further. But to the rest of the cabinet, again, I'm here available to you anytime you want. So again, thank you very much for the honor.
So just a couple of things. I had the opportunity to attend the Osceola County Chamber of Commerce Directors Retreat this past weekend. I have to say that the businesses in Osceola County are very much dependent upon the work that we do as a school district. That if there was ever a sense of urgency for us to skill up our students, provide them additional pathways for additional postgraduate training or job readiness, I learned it this past weekend firsthand from people that serve in leadership roles for large companies that do business in Osceola County and also small businesses that do business in Osceola County. So if there was ever a sense of urgency, it's now. And so we will respond and we will partner well with the business community. I just want to say thank you to all the people who work for our school district who served during the storm. I don't think that people understand the sacrifice that comes from leaving your family to essentially the elements, not knowing exactly what's going to take place because you have in your heart the dedication to serve your community and other people who are total strangers who may be more in need than you and your family. And they do it without pause, they do it with conviction, and they do it well. And I was so gratified to visit with them at the shelters and for them to have the attitudes that they had to make sure that everybody who actually had to take shelter were calm, they felt welcomed, they had hot meals, they had a clean place to sleep and rest, they had positive people to talk to. It's pretty remarkable, and that is something that never gets told. And I am very, very grateful and proud of our team. Lastly, I know that there's been a lot of questions about makeup days relative to the hurricane. I want to thank Mr. Thorne, Dr. Allen. Their teams have worked really, really hard to try to identify where we can recover instructional minutes. So I'm pleased to announce that we will not have any hurricane makeup days in Osceola County. That doesn't preclude us from having makeup days in Osceola County should we have any additional storms. So I wanna say that I wanna leave that out there. So, but I'm very, very grateful to everyone that worked very hard on this to really scrape the schedules, looking for minutes that we can give back, and we found it. So, good news. Thank you.
With that, we're moving on to quite a few presentations. We're going to start with our Fine Arts moment. It's actually going to be compiled of two Fine Arts moments. One first by the St. Cloud High Chorus Harmonics group, and then we will also be doing the Boggy Creek Elementary students to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month.
we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. From now on, these eyes will not be blinded by the lights. From now on, let's wait until tomorrow starts tonight. It starts tonight, and let this promise in me start. Like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on, from now on, again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. We will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. From now on, home again. From now on, from now on, home again.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here tonight. I know we had our Hurricane Milton, so we had a little postponement to our Hispanic Heritage Celebration, but we do have with us our Baggy Creek Elementary students who are honoring Hispanic Heritage Month with Bomba from Puerto Rico.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Reyes. Thank you to our superintendent, Valerie Martinez, our administrator, Ms. Yara Tavares de la Fuentes, who unfortunately is not here today, but our assistant principal, Rachel Bynum, for allowing us to be here and inviting us. My name is Barbara Ortiz. I'm the executive director for Escuela de Bomba y Plena Tata Cepeda, and also the proud media specialist at Baggy Creek Elementary School. And we are here to show you a little bit about Bomba, which is the oldest music and dance tradition and genre of Puerto Rico. So let's hear. We're gonna need your assistance for our coro, okay? The coro is going to be agua, agua nada más. Let's start.
our district social media. We've been highlighting principals since the start of the month. So if you want to learn more about our principals, check that out. And I invite Mr. Rademacher from Neptune Middle School.
For National Principals Month proclamation, the month of October 2024, whereas the School Board of Osceola County, Florida honors and recognizes principals for their positive impact on learning by setting high standards for instruction, achievement, character, and a positive school culture. And whereas SDOC principals are responsible for the daily operation of their schools, which includes supporting and overseeing the effective implementation of academic and social emotional learning, building meaningful relationships with students, families, teachers, community partners, and others, and fostering a student-centered school culture. And whereas principals serve as the educational leader of their schools, demonstrating knowledge of effective instructional strategies and fulfilling the learning and developmental needs of students, teachers, and staff. And whereas principals work diligently to create a positive school climate that is inviting to students, families, and the community, and provide a safe and supportive environment where students, teachers, staff learn, grow, and achieve. Now, therefore, the School Board of Osceola County, Florida, does hereby proclaim October 2024 as the National Principals Month in School District of Osceola County, and encourages local citizens to honor and recognize the contributions of our school principals to ensure every student has a promising and successful future.
So moved. I have a motion by Mr. Roy, a second by Ms. Castillo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations to our principals, and thank you so much for all you do. Next, we have our proclamation for National School Bus Safety Week, which is October 21st through 25th.
This week. Good evening, Board, Superintendent, and Cabinet. So, along with the National Association of Pupil Transportation, this week is National School Bus Safety Week. Now, ordinarily, we would have come to you at a prior meeting with the proclamation, but we had this little thing, a Cat 5 hurricane. So, we're a little bit late. What I'd like to do is show you a short video where some of our frontline staff members are going to tell you in their words why school bus safety is so important. And then one of our school bus trainers, Carla Geigel, is going to come read the proclamation into the record. And I'd like to give a shout out to our corporate partner, Matthews Bus Alliance, for being once again our shirt sponsor. So let's watch the video.
Safety is important because we're trusting the future generations.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to read the proclamation. Whereas every year the nation's 480,000 public school buses travel more than 6.2 billion miles to transport over 26 million students, more than half of America's school children to and from school and school-related activities. And whereas Osceola School District's excellent safety record in transporting students to school each day on school buses has been achieved and must be maintained. And whereas school bus transportation is one of the safest forms of transportation in the United States, and school buses comprise the country's largest mass transportation fleet. And whereas school buses meet higher construction, equipment, and inspection standards than any other vehicle, And school bus drivers meet higher qualification, training, and testing standards than any other drivers. Whereas the theme of this year's National School Bus Safety Week is driving safely into the future, and whereas motorists must remember to stop when a school bus has stopped and has its stop arms extended and red lights flashing. And whereas activities during School Bus Safety Week and throughout the year provide evidence of Osceola School District's commitment to ensure the health and safety of school children who ride school buses, as well as students who walk, bicycle, or ride in cars to school. Now therefore be it resolved that the Osceola School Board does hereby proclaim October 21st through the 25th as National School Bus Safety Week. Thank you.
All right. So if one of the more popular TV game shows, say Family Feud, were to survey 100 people and ask them to identify the most important functions your school district does, I assure you the maintenance, repair, and inspection of school buses sadly isn't going to make the answer board. But yet it's a critically important function. It's easily overlooked and underappreciated until tonight. It's so important that every June our state association, the Florida Association for Pupil Transportation, hosts a 1-week-long training academy just for the school bus techs. And I always tell people, you just heard how safe school buses are. Well, it's our maintenance techs that are the first line of defense toward making that happen. And from all over the state, they convene in for a week in June for refresher, high-tech training. A lot of people don't know our technicians have a laptop computer as part of their toolbox. Those yellow cheese wagons are a lot more sophisticated than most people think. But at the end of this week of training, they do something, it's a very friendly competition. What they do is the cadre will stage some buses with known defects, and the technicians will take turns trying to identify the hidden defects, kind of an Easter egg hunt. Well, I'm proud to report that Osceola cleaned up doing that this year, and I'd like to recognize some of our technicians that were there and did so well. So now some of the people that I'm going to recognize can't be here tonight because, believe it or not, we're still transporting students right now. So in fourth place of all the technicians participating, Evandro Ficasso was number 4. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here. In second place in the state, Mode Martinez. Mode, I saw you here. Come on down.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Photo op.
Face it up.
And in first place, Alexander Figueroa was ranked the top inspector for Florida. So. These are, again, the first line of defense, keeping our children safe. Now, another function that isn't going to make the answer board is answering telephone calls. But, many of you know, at the beginning of the school year, we advertise our transportation information hotline. And what happens is our inbound call volume increases tenfold. So what we do is everybody is on deck handling those inbound calls. So what we did, because you might imagine the hotline can be a little harsh duty. I think that's why they call it the hotline. But this year, because it does take its toll on you. And this year we were tracking the number of calls each person handled, and we wanted to recognize them for being there and handling that. So I'm going to call some names that aren't going to be here, unfortunately, but I think their names deserve to be in the record. Shavonna Allen, I know she can't be here. Jeanette Vasquez, I did see her here. And you still have hearing in both ears, right? Okay. And I always say this wrong. Gemma DiGiacomo. Then there'll be Marisol Santana. Thank you very much. Gabriella Jarrett. Edith Torres. Kathy Gomez. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the often underappreciated and under-recognized behind-the-scenes folks of transportation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, get comfortable.
Turn in a little and yep, there we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Randy.
We are now on to our proclamation for National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have Tony Rappanese, our Supervisor of Social Services, and Andy Hinman from Help Now.
So good evening, everybody. I'm Jimon Valentin, and I work for Help Now of Osceola, and I'm the primary prevention specialist, so I'm brand new to the position, and I'm super glad and blessed to be here to take this opportunity to read the proclamation for domestic violence. So, whereas Help Now is the certified domestic violence center that has provided service for survivors of domestic violence and their children in Osceola County for the past 41 years. And whereas between 3.3 million and 10 million children in the United States live in a household where domestic violence is present. And whereas domestic violence in childhood is directly connected with learning difficulties, lower IQ scores, deficiencies in visual motor skills, and problems with attention and memory, insomnia, irritability, distractibility, and true anxiety. And
Hello, my name is Dorian Coley. I am the chair of the Osceola County Domestic Violence Task Force, and I'm going to continue reading the proclamation. Whereas childhood exposure to family violence disrupts cognitive and social development and leads to an array of adverse outcomes, such as violence, victimization, and whereas teen dating violence can increase the risk of later substance use, mental health problems, sexual risk behaviors, teen pregnancy, suicide, weight control, and ongoing difficulties with intimate partner relationships.
Good evening, and once again, thank you very much. My name is Evelyn Herrera Jackson. I'm the Director of Outreach Services for Help Now of Osceola. Whereas by providing young people with education about health relationships and relationship skills, and by changing attitudes that support violence, we recognize that dating violence can be prevented. And now, therefore, we, the Osceola County School Board, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and call upon the citizens of our community to join us in working towards the elimination of personal and institutional violence against all persons. Thank you. I want to share that.
Can we let us vote one?
Oh, okay. My bad.
I have a motion by Mr. Arguello, a second by Mr. Ramsey. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I know we had, for our original date, I love bringing the children that we teach. And unfortunately, with the switch of the dates, they were unable to switch their schedule. So this is my wonderful team that we brought in. And understand, we do have a team of prevention. We have a prevention team because at Help Now, we believe that violence is preventable. And what a better way than to teach our young people, little people, to teach about healthy relationships, about hugging and not hitting, about being respectful. So we work hard. Right now we are at 2 schools, Liberty and Zenith, and I'm sure we're a team of a few, but we do welcome everyone's mindset in terms of making sure that we spread the word that violence is preventable. And thank God to our school friendships, to all the cabinet board members, definitely Dr. Chernoff, for believing that we can still come into the schools and make a difference. If you see some of our, we do, after giving the students a pre and post survey, there is positive change, and that we are very proud of, that we can nudge the needle a little bit. So again, I appreciate you welcoming us again. I am celebrating my 26th year with Help Now, and if it wasn't for my passion for educating youth and my passion for spreading that healthy relationships do exist, and I see Dr. Allen because he's Osceola Leadership 2016, and we're all about getting the word out. And please join us. The month has not ended. This Thursday, we have our March rally and our vigil to recognize those that have fallen. So if you want to join us, 6 p.m. in front of the Osceola County building, and join us in marching against domestic violence. Thank you all.
Michelle Henninger up for our student recognition of perfect scores on the state tests.
Good evening, board. In the 23-24 school year, we are so proud to profess that 153 of our students scored a perfect score on one of the Florida Assessment of Student Thinking tests, end of course exams, or grade 5 or grade 8 statewide science assessments. We are incredibly proud of each of these 153 students for their momentous accomplishment. They will be recognized and celebrated at their individual schools in the coming weeks. Board, we have, however, the distinct pleasure this evening to honor 4 individuals who earned a perfect score, not on 1, but 2 of the aforementioned state assessments last school year. With that, I will hand it off to Ms. Henninger to recognize our students.
Yes, this is the exciting part. So we have 4 students that have earned a perfect score on 2 different assessments. One student unfortunately was unable to be with us, but we certainly will recognize that person as well. So at this time, I would like to call Benjamin Pham Lung up to the podium. Benjamin is a current student at Celebration K-8, and he has earned a perfect score last year as a 7th grader in algebra and 7th grade ELA. Okay, I would like to call Derek Cabrera to the podium. Middle School, and he has earned a perfect score on his civics EOC last year and his science assessment. And we have Benicio Montebanoli. Benicio comes to us from Neptune Middle School, and he earned, he's got so much to carry.
He does.
Algebra EOC and a biology EOC, and I have to also mention that they also have been provided a $25 gift card to Amazon. The one person who's not here with us, and I do want to recognize Gabrielle Zelinskis from the Osceola County School for the Arts, who also earned a perfect score in biology and civics. So she could not be here with us.
You can move up.
Yeah, you can. It's okay.
Come on up, you're okay.
And principals.
Boys.
Congratulations to all of those students. I'm going to go ahead and present the next presentation as the chair needed to step out. So the next presentation will actually be presented by Board Member Ramsey, and that is going to be recognizing Harmony Middle School FFA program. Mr. Ramsey?
So last year, two of our young ladies in FFA were at the middle school, and being there was no board member in this seat, they weren't recognized for their accomplishments, so I'm going to call them up first. Amaya and Michaela, so if y'all come up and stand. Amaya and Michaela competed in ornamental horticulture, where they had to demonstrate a 7-10-minute presentation in front of a panel of judges. The topic they chose was strawberry salsa in the consumer use division, while relating it back to the agriculture industry. Working their way through district and regionals, the girls went on to compete against 12 other state finalists, and they earned first place in their division. Also bring up Principal Talenko as the principal and their ag teacher last year, Ms. Brown.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good job.
Now we are on to 2.08, Dr. Shannon, the outgoing board member recognition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the two board members that are serving in their last meeting tonight. I will start with District 2, Mr. Melendez. Come on down. So, Mr. Melendez, on behalf of the school district, on behalf of the school board, I want to thank you for all of your leadership over the past many years. Our conversations have been outstanding. We've had some very lively conversations, there's no doubt about it. But one thing that I have always been able to get from you is what is best for kids. And that has always been the central point of everything that you've ever lived by since you've been on this board. And I have to tell you that I have appreciated that, because no matter what, you're constantly looking for the best option. And whatever, as you mentioned earlier tonight, whatever was best for kids was what you were going to go with. And sometimes that meant that I could talk you out of one of your ideas into one of my ideas. And other times it was you being able to talk me out of one of my ideas to do one of your ideas. And it made a lot of sense. And the one thing you always told me, which was always true, you know people. You know people. And I just have to say that I have appreciated your guidance the past 18 months. I appreciate your service to our community and everything that you have brought to our school district. And our school district is a better place because of your leadership. So thank you. Thank you. And District 3, Mr. Arguello. He's probably slightly nervous about what I might say, but this is what I want to say. I watched a lot of board meetings leading up to my interview for superintendent, and then I became superintendent, and you and I have had numerous conversations on the phone. That is the side that I think a lot of people don't always get a chance to see about you. And that there is strong advocacy for our teachers, there's strong advocacy for our students, there's strong advocacy for our community. And there is a sensitivity that you bring to the conversations that we have had about what specific people, what specific constituents, what specific folks that work within our organization, what they need. And I have to tell you, it's inspired me to work a lot harder and really follow through on those things, because it was always about the individual experience of those folks, whether they were students or they were teachers, support staff. You cared about how they felt. You cared about what their work experience was like. And it was all about, let's go ahead and make this the best place it could possibly be for them. And so I have to tell you, I really appreciate that about you. I've appreciated that about you. And thank you very much for your service.
That, we are on to 3.01, agenda modifications. Dr. Chanel, do you have any?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have, the personnel agenda has been modified. That is blue sheet item 5.01.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Melendez?
The only modification I have, and the only regret, is I didn't appreciate one of the greatest board secretaries in the whole wide world, Ms. Tanya Culver. That's gonna be something I'm gonna miss, having somebody be a soundboard to kind of go after. And you're amazing, and to be able to wrangle 5 folks the 5 different personalities was amazing. With that, I have no other agenda modifications.
Thank you, Mr. Arguello.
9.02 and 12.01.
Ms. Castillo?
None, ma'am.
Mr. Ramsey?
No, ma'am.
With that, I have agenda modification to 9.02 and 12.01 for discussion. Do I have a motion to approve agenda as modified?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, 5.01 blue sheet as well. I have a motion, Mr. Arguello, did you make a motion?
Yes.
I'm sorry. A motion by Mr. Arguello, second by Mr. Ramsey. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. We are on to 5.01. Sorry, 9.02. Mr. Arguello.
Yeah, very quickly, so 9.02 is in regards to a road which we negotiated with the county. I kind of mentioned it in our meeting. What I don't like about 9.02 is that we are essentially surrendering it to the county. What we're receiving in the end is a waiver. I think that the county should be paying for this land. They have the money. This money goes back into education. We shouldn't be giving freebies to the county. They should be helping us fulfill our mission. So I think I wouldn't, I'm gonna vote no, but I'm thinking that we should have received corresponding funds for this.
Mr. Melendez, you're recognized.
Mr. Sharma, is this the one where we had to pay for the temporary light, but the county has agreed to pay for the permanent light when it gets put out there? So even though we may not be getting money for the land, but we're gonna be saving money in the future down the road when the permanent traffic light gets built.
Yes, sir. Along with them waiving the requirement to install the sidewalks along Nova Road, that's included here as well. Our normal and local agreement says that we would build sidewalks. They have waived that requirement as well. So
Now is the county gonna pay for the sidewalks or the sidewalks?
when Nova Road is eventually widened, they will pay for the sidewalks. We wouldn't have to pay for it.
Okay. Thank you. Motion approved.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, a second by Ms. Castillo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. 12.01, Mr. Arguello, you are recognized.
I just wanted to wish the students of OXA a safe and successful journey to their competition. And with that, I'll motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Arguello,
Second.
a second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to approve 12.01, I mean 12.02.
Oh, sorry, 12.02, yes, sorry. Motion by Ms. Castillo,
Second.
second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. 13.03.
Motion approved.
Second, I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Ms. Castillo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. 14.14.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Ms. Castillo, second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We are now starting public comment. Remind you to state your name for the record. And please remember that there is a civility policy that the district has. Keep your comments to the board as a whole. Mr. Gary Stone.
Good evening and thank you. Talking about the good cause appeal is why I'm here. I approached Councilwoman Castillo about it. My son Riley is a freshman last year, sophomore this year. I made a decision because I retired this past year to move to Lake County. We were looking for property because that was the goal when I moved here in 2000, the week COVID shut our city and country down. I finally got to the point where we're gonna buy a home up there. We were looking. I moved my son from Celebration High School up to Lake County to Lake Mineola, and he enrolled there, started practicing football, but I started finding out he wasn't happy. And when he calls his mom, my wife, up in South Carolina where our primary home is, and said, "Mom, I'm not happy," his mental health was more important. So I turned around, withdrew him from Lake Mineola, came back to Celebration, enrolled him, and I found out a process called the Good Cause Appeal. There are a bunch of things you go through. Osceola County hurts itself and hurts its students with this process because you have to go through it. You give it to the athletic director, Mr. Ryan, and they turn around and they give it out to some other people. 2 principals made a decision that my son should only play JV. I'm not sure why, but when I asked, the response was, well, he's lucky he's playing football. There's one problem. There was no JV season. JV season got washed out, and usually it's not scheduled. They actually approached Mr. Ryan and said, could he play the last 2 games? And he was told no. When I talked to Lake County Athletic Director, Mr. Todd, not relation to Celebrations, Mr. Todd, he said he didn't break any rules. He should be able to play football. So what I'm asking is 2 things for you. I'm swinging for the fence, folks. Overrule Mr. Ryan and let him play his last 2 games. Why? He has college offers. As a freshman, Tuskegee University offered him a verbal offer. He has college visits this coming year, and no film hurts him and hurts our county and our sports program. I'm a retired police sergeant, and I had one rule when I was a watch commander. Before you do something, ask yourself, am I going to ask you why you did it? If the answer is yes, don't do it. Why can't we change the process that it's turned in? Mr. Ryan says, yes, there was no violation. Give it back to the school principal and let them decide. The idea was to prevent recruiting violations. My son didn't do anything. I made the decision to move because the cost of homes up there was far cheaper, but that impact cost him his football year. Now, he has a chance to play 2 games. I'm asking you to let him play. And if you don't have the power, you can't do it, okay. But change your rules. I'll be willing to work with anybody to get the rules to make it more effective and more efficient for our student athletes. Thank you very much.
Ms. Corn, I have a question for my board member. This is one of the items under new business. Can the board member speak at this time, or does it need to be new business?
It should be on new business so that public comment can continue for all of the others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you.
Thank
Chris
you.
Fontenot?
Good evening, board members and Dr. Shanoff. My family and I relocated from Portland, Oregon area to Florida in May of 2021. In August of that year, I attended my first school board meeting. I'll never forget walking into the boardroom and seeing everyone on the dais wearing a mask except for one. Only one person on the dais at that time was strongly advocating for parents to have an opt-out option for their children. That lone voice united a group of parents, a remnant. The curtain had been lifted and parents began asking questions once they saw what was behind it. Questionable curriculum, books in school libraries that were not age appropriate, shady contracts, wasteful spending, a lack of accountability and transparency, to name a few. Conservative families in Osceola County finally felt like they had an advocate, someone willing to defend and speak up for them no matter the cost. Fortunately, many positive changes took place when our new superintendent came. Standing up for what's right and speaking for the truth will always be met with criticism. A true leader will never take the easy road that's less traveled to avoid the judgment that inevitably follows. A true leader is willing to stand firm in their faith because they realize if they don't, they will not stand at all. And a true leader will speak for those which have no voice or cannot speak for themselves. While the voice that represents so many of us may not be on this dais anymore after tonight, we will still be engaged, we will still be watching, we will not go away. It's important to remember that once the chains that bind those who are elected have been removed, and the true leaders are no longer forced to conform or operate within the boundaries that held them back, the real work begins. The cowards will be forgotten, but the warriors will always be remembered and live to fight another day. I leave you with this scripture from Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I also want to publicly commend the Miami-Dade School District on passing the chaplain policy in Polk County, who is passing theirs this evening. I look forward to collaborating with our school board and the residents of Osceola County to work towards an implementation
of a policy here. God bless you, John. It's an honor to call you my friend.
I ask that we refrain from applause between public comment. We have a lot of people that want to speak tonight, and I'd like to be mindful of your time here tonight. Laura McAdams.
Good evening, board members, and Dr. Shanoff. My name is Laura McAdams. I live in St. Cloud, Florida, 34772. And I just came here this evening to say goodbye to the one board member, of course, that stood up and advocated with parents and stood by our sides and helped us advocate to the board and, of course, for our community, because it's very important that our children get a proper education and not just indoctrination and everything that we've been fighting against for the past 4 years. So thank you for your service, and we really appreciate you. And also I wanted to speak about the chaplain policies that you guys are thinking about right now, and ask that you really take that into consideration and implement the chaplain program into Osceola County, because our students have suffered enough after COVID with all the mask mandates and everything that they went through with being home all the time, secluded, and then coming back to school with masks on their face. And they need a little bit of out, and providing them a chaplain of whatever religion or whatever background it is that they desire to have is important for their mentality and for them to have some kind of recovery for the future. So please take that into deep consideration. And you know, I just hope you guys do the right thing, because I know we're losing the strongest member right now on the board, and well, we'll just keep praying for you that you guys make the right decisions for our children.
Thank you. Brooke Kamalis Means.
Good evening. My reason for attending today was just to say thank you to John for opening my eyes. I didn't start paying attention to school board meetings until around the time of COVID, and not specifically in Osceola County at first. It was hard to watch anything on YouTube without videos popping up discussing things taking place in our nation's schools, like woke curriculums, mask mandates, and the inappropriate books being read by multiple parents in numerous schools. Content so foul that it was making many of these videos go viral. My immediate thought was, well, at least it's not happening in Osceola County. Then I watched my first school board meeting and about fell out my seat. Yes, my Osceola County too. I've watched concerned parents speak on these topics time and time again, and there has only been one school board member who has consistently fought for transparency and against these issues, going as far as reading content from some of these books, and that is John. So thanks again for opening my eyes and trying to open the eyes of others. You have been a brave force both on the battlefield, defending our country, and behind this dais, defending our children and community. So for that, thank you for your service, and God bless.
Mark Peters.
Good evening, school board, Dr. Shanoff, and all district leaders. My name is Mark Peters, Kissimmee, Florida. I appreciate you guys having me here this evening. I just want to come up here and say thank you, board member Melendez and Agrello. Thank you guys for serving so diligently over the last 4 years. It's been truly a battle in the district from COVID to where we are with Chaplain. But you guys have stood your ground, and we might not have agreed on everything that you guys have done. But I hope tonight that you guys can leave with unanimous board vote to approve the Chaplain program. Just to remind you guys that our teen girls, CDC last year shared a statistic that teen girls are at the highest rate right now of thinking about suicide, possibly going as far as attempting it. And it's an epidemic in the schools. These are teen school girls especially. The statistics on boys is a little bit lower, but the percentage is over 33% of young girls. And it's in our schools, in Osceola, in the schools around. And so you might say we have the help in school, we have counselors, we have people who can speak to them. So why is the numbers going up if we have it? we need an additional help, right? We need something else that maybe can bridge the gap that is not being filled. Maybe something spiritual. You don't know what kids need because you didn't grow up in this age. None of us did. I don't think anyone here behind me can say they understand what children are going through today. They're not sharing as much at home. Their parents are difficult to understand what they're going through themselves. So what do you think you guys will know? So we need someone who can minister to them, and I think the chaplain program needs to be given a chance. Now, everyone comes up here and spews lies about the chaplain program is going to try to indoctrinate kids. Well, the school's been doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think, and the school chaplain program is going to be choice. It's going to be a parent have to decide that a child want to speak to that, and the child has to decide if they want to do it too. So it's not going to be lorded over anyone. It's not going to be pushed over anyone. So there's no reason for you guys to vote no. Now, you've said, some of the board members who have voted no have said that they need time to review it, put in policy, examine it, examine this, examine that. It's amazing how this chaplain program needs so much examination when you guys have passed other policies and then examine it after and implement things to govern it. So please, let's not beat around the bush anymore. Do the right thing for our children and your children. Thank you very much.
Hiram A. Quinones.
How you guys doing? I'm a mechanic for the transportation for you guys. You guys watched all the presentation about the safety and everything. I've been in this community for 25 years. All my kids went here. So that was a big choice for me why I wanted to work for the transportation. The last couple of years we've been promising, there've been a lot of promises towards us. A couple people in this room have promised us some things. We've been having issues with the union. Although I respect that institution, they seem to have hindered what we're looking for. I was told on October 8th, something was gonna be presented to the board. Obviously, there was a hurricane, and today was, I guess, the reschedule, but it's not on there. And what I'm speaking about is, we've been being told about having a pay increase for all the mechanics in the transportation department. And I just wanna know what's the holdup now? Because we all deserve it, we all need it, obviously, we all struggling a little bit. Some of us doing 2 jobs. On top of that, the ones that are working, we're doing overtime. So in my opinion, that's causing more cost than if we were all just being able to have the pay we need, and it would also attract people to come to us. In the last 2 years, we've probably lost about 8 mechanics, and it's directly related to pay. So when applications are not coming in, so we're not getting anywhere because nobody wants to apply or get hired for what the starting pay is. And all the other jobs with our credentials, the pay is way higher than what we're at now, even at our max pay. So all we're asking is, what's the steps going forward? What's the holdup? What's the blue tape? That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Can I ask Dr. Shanoff and Mr. Noble some kind of follow-up with Mr. Quinones in regards to the fact that we ratified salaries prior to this, and I don't know what, as far as a new item related to.
Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate for us to speak about it in public because
Right, no,
it's currently
follow
being
with it.
negotiated, but Mr. Noble will follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Alan Alex. Dr. Alan Alex. Yara Garcia. Sorry. Dr. Alan? Alex?
Sorry, hi, good evening. My name is Draylon Alex.
Draylon,
It looks
sorry.
like doctor,
Okay,
but thank you. I appreciate it. So thank you for having me here this evening. I just wanted to take the time and thank Osceola County, the school district. My son attends Florida Ridge. We've been here for 4 years. And I want to say spirituality is important, for us all to have. The curriculum is great the way it is. There's no need to add anything to it outside of what we've learned, that got us here. If anything, we need more direction and guidance, more support. And that's all I had, pretty much. I wasn't going to come up here and speak, but thank you. Thank you. That's all. Look, I save time. Whoever wants my time, you can have it.
Yara Garcia Laguerre.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, Dr. Shanoff. My name is Yara Garcia, and I would like to read this. There is nothing more important to a parent other than the well-being of the child. Being like any other parent, I want my child at her best, not necessarily just academically, but emotionally and socially. This is the reason why I stand before you today, in full support of having my child allowed to receive the counseling services offered through the Passing the Chaplain program. They face daily pressure and stress that all too many of us will never even notice. As much as campus life, friendship, social media, and personal struggles combine to make so many of them stressed, anxious, and more. It's a feature of growing up, but often they do not understand what is happening inside them. The Chaplain program will provide the counseling service that our children deserve, a safe and trusted place to express themselves and advice they need. I can understand that as a parent, we may have some apprehension regarding outside influences when it comes to the welfare of our children. Still, I also acknowledge the worth of professional counselors who are trained to help students during these trying times. These services are not designed to take the place of that role of us as parents within our children's life, but rather to work along in giving our children the necessary tools and strategies they will need to be successful emotionally, academically, and socially. In consenting to my child receiving counseling under a chaplain program, I am not only attending to his immediate needs emotionally, but I am making an investment in his future, in her future. The program will help develop resilience, emotional intelligence, and self-assurance while working her way through her tangles of adolescence. And we know this all too well. When our children are emotionally strong, they attend to school better, forge healthier relationships, and are better equipped to cope with life challenges. Beyond that, this counseling service can prevent problems before they start. It is when young people have emotional troubles that these sometimes lead to negative behavior, isolation, or even putting themselves and others in harm's way. By offering them an outlet, Chaplain program will give our children an opportunity to engage in their feelings and deal with their emotions constructively and healthy. In conclusion, I hereby grant permission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Tavares.
Julia Tavares. It's a blessing for me to give honor where honor is due. Thank you for fighting for righteousness. Thank you for protecting our children from indoctrination and perversion. Thank you for being a voice for our families, teachers, staff to strengthen our community. Thank you for the times you stood for those who were being silenced or masked. Even though you knew you would stand alone, you stood. Thank you for revealing hidden things and exposing the truth. Thank you for the late work nights and family sacrifices to serve this community. Thank you for your impact on the countless lives in this county, including mine. Your work made a difference. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your leadership. On behalf of Osceola County, I want to wholeheartedly say thank you. We want to thank you. Osceola School Board Member, November 17, 2020 to November 19, 2024. Thanks for protecting our kids. And I also did want to add, in regards to the chaplain programs, I want to continue to urge this board to please listen to the community, listen to the voices that are here today. We've been here many, many meetings, and as the previous person who spoke said, what is taking so long? The people are speaking, please listen. You can do as Miami-Dade did, approve the chaplain program. Let the parents sign the approval for their kids to receive the services that they want. Remove the barriers. Thank you.
Nelly Hernandez.
Good evening, everyone. Zinelli Hernandez. And tonight I want to take this moment to thank a member John Aguelo, for an outstanding job these last 4 years. So on behalf of Young Hope Ministries, the communities I serve, and of course our district, District 3, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for taking a firm stand against issues that were and are still trending, but that are destructive to young people. Thank you for trying so very hard to implement the very needed chaplaincy program and trying to pass resolutions that will protect students and parental rights from potential future mandates. Even though no other members stood with you on that, we, the people of Osceola, took notice and thanks you for giving your all in representing us. We will never forget that you took a stand where it mattered and when it mattered. This trophy right here is something for you to remember us. But my blessing for you is that your next God-given assignment be once more blessed by God, and that you prosper in all that you do. May God bless your going out and your coming in according to Psalms 23. May He restore your soul and lead you in the path of righteousness for His name's sake. May goodness and mercy follow you all the days of your life. I do bless you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you, John, and thank you, all members of this board and the administration. Amen.
Amber Hand.
Good evening. My name is Amber Hand, and I am here again to speak about the chaplain issue. I've not prepared a long speech as I did last time. I think most things have already been said. And I do appreciate the majority of the board who has stood with the parents who have spoken out against the chaplaincy program, who want to keep the school and the chaplains separate. I am also speaking not only for myself, but on behalf of many parents who have reached out to me personally, who have felt ostracized and not welcome to come to the meeting to express a dissenting view on the program. As you can tell, there's been name called, there's been lots of derogatory comments toward those of us who do not fall into the Christian ideology. As you can tell, there's a small group of a fan club that one of the board members have, and that's great. But that should all stay at church. And we've been over this issue over and over again. I would propose possibly putting a 2-meeting limit on an issue, unless there's new information brought to light. And the only other thing I had to say is that, once again, I am trusting the board to do the right thing, listen to the parents who are here and the parents who are not comfortable being here with the pushback that we've gotten from a certain board member, and to please just listen to the parents. Thank you.
Michael Mello.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Mello. I'm from St. Cloud, Florida. Religious freedom is not one specific religion getting special rights that others don't get. Religious freedom is not mixing government with religion by having a religious test in order to be allowed to participate in a government-sponsored program. Religious freedom is not having the government force children to participate in a religious council without their consent, which is how the chaplain access policy is written. Religious freedom, however, is being allowed to practice your religion, no matter if it's a majority belief or minority belief in society, without government interference, unless your beliefs harm others. And avoiding harming others is something we all should care about, and one of the main reasons why allowing clergy in public schools is wrong. Those who support this program argue that the children need the help, and that clergy members are the answer to the help they need. If I believe that, I have one less objection to this program. Unfortunately, it is likely clergy may very well harm children. Clergy members are not mental health experts trained to properly treat children, no matter how much some of them think they are, unless, of course, they have the proper master's degrees and PhD degrees that require many years of higher education to counsel children as well as being a clergy member. The test to be a volunteer should be based on the proper education only. Whether or not you're a member of the clergy should not matter. My biggest fear is a clergy member will come into public schools, bully an LGBT plus student due to their religious beliefs that are homophobic, and that student will not be only bullied at home but also in school and end up harming themselves or others. Just last week, on October 17th, a major Christian organization in a U.S. city agreed to pay $880 million settlement for sexually abusing children. And very few of these sexual predators are ever held accountable, and all were thought to be outstanding members of the community prior to these revelations coming to light. Does Osceola County and its residents want to risk the liability of such lawsuits in the future if one or more of the clergy allowed to public schools abuse a child? And that's not the only financial risk to the county and taxpayers that live here. Article 6, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution that was unanimously agreed on August 30th, 1787 states very clearly that no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. If you enact this policy that blatantly has a religious test to participate in a public program in a public school, you're violating this article of the Constitution and will open up the taxpayers of Osceola County to pay for the lawsuits you will lose. And another potential lawsuit is when the government forces children to participate in these programs, as all that is required is parental consent, not the child's. That's the correct actual wording of the law. In 1943, the Supreme Court ruled in the West Virginia State Board versus Barnett case that forcing children to participate in the pledge in public schools violated the First and 14th Amendment of the child. The government has no right to force a child to participate in a religious ritual they don't want to participate in, even if the parent wants to force them to participate. Children, thank you for your time, and let's just do it in church instead of schools. We have like 30 of them before you get to school.
Williamson.
Good evening, David Williamson, Central Florida Free Thought Community, 83 Geneva Drive. In item 1702, I'm confident it's students' religious freedoms that will be discussed, since students are who the district serves and who the First Amendment protects. While courts have agreed that employees and volunteers, it's only when that religious practice does not have the potential to influence students or encourage them to participate. I have a hard copy of the U.S. Department of Education's guidance on constitutionally protected prayer and religious expression in public schools for your reference for each of you. It includes several concepts related to this question and discusses how schools can avoid interfering with students' religious freedoms. I also want to encourage you to consider in your discussion about religious freedom not just students' rights to free expression, which is already fully protected by your policies without chaplains, but also its necessary foundation, the Establishment Clause. The Establishment Clause is your liability. The Establishment Clause embodies the religious freedom protections that are really at stake here. As I've explained in previous meetings, whether it's your draft policy or even the more problematic proposal from the Commissioner of Education, a chaplain program will be exclusive, prohibit all minority religions from participating, further privilege the pastors who are already pushing student religious clubs and sports ministries. They're eager for you to provide office space on campus and become the school's chaplain. A government-funded chaplaincy in our public schools will literally be the answer to their prayers. They've already said out loud that public schools are, quote, mission fields where student souls are ripe for harvest. No matter who advocates for it, a state law that conflicts with the Florida and U.S. constitutions remains unconstitutional. I'm confident this is why the two other districts mentioned have not taken up the issue. Miami-Dade, again, was mentioned this month. They have not implemented a policy there. They asked for a feasibility study, which has not been brought forward and put on the agenda. No policy language has ever been developed in Miami-Dade. In Marion County, school board planned to discuss it last month, but did not. And I just checked, nothing on the agenda in Polk County tonight for discussion, nothing on the agenda in Polk County for policy. So we're being lied to in front of our faces. No parent, no committee, no commissioner of education, and no well-intentioned school board member can make a public policy like this constitutional, no matter how hard they want it to be. I'd respectfully request that you hold your students' religious freedom in the highest regard, that you honor your commitment to them and focus on providing a safe and respectful learning environment, and that you allow parents and students to meet their spiritual needs on campus in the ways that already exist and are fully protected, and for them to seek support from members of clergy in the community and not on campus. No policy is needed. No change to current practice is warranted. Thank you.
Jeffrey Santiago.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and community members. My name is Jeffrey Santiago, and I stand in firm for the chaplain program. As a 2024 high school graduate and a current Valencia College student, this bill proposes the addition of chaplains to our public schools. The inclusion of chaplains can significantly benefit students, faculty, and the school community as a whole. Missing the opportunity of implementing this bill will only limit the resources our students have at their disposal. Chaplains provide holistic support that transcends any single faith or tradition. They are trained to assist individuals in diverse backgrounds, including those who may not identify with any religion. Their role is to meet students at where they are emotionally, mentally, and psychologically, offering a non-judgmental space for guidance and support. In a school environment filled with academic and social pressures, having someone to talk to can be very crucial for students' well-being, and having someone to hear them out gives moral guidance or just a safe haven would be crucial for saving many young lives. Chaplains have already proven their value in high-stress environments like fire departments, police stations, hospitals, and prisons. Schools too face their own challenges such as bullying, family issues, and social issues. Just as chaplains support other institutions, they can play an essential role in helping students navigate their struggles. Inclusivity is another vital aspect of chaplaincy. There is a common misconception that chaplains will impose their beliefs on others. However, their training emphasizes respect for diverse beliefs, creating an inclusive environment in schools where all students feel valued. This approach ensures that every child receives emotional and psychological support, fostering a sense of belonging. Chaplains also provide crucial support to faculty staff who often face significant stress. By offering listening and guidance, chaplains can help teachers maintain mental health, which ultimately benefits the students they serve. In summary, the chaplain program opens the door for a successful chaplaincy service seen in other public institutions to be implemented in our schools. This initiative can create a caring environment that supports all students regardless of their background. Passing this bill would strengthen our school communities and enhance the overall educational experience. Let us embrace this opportunity for the betterment of our students and schools. Thank you, guys.
Hello, my name is Gadiel Pagan. Distinguished guests and fellow community members, I stand here as also a graduate of the class of 2024 to support the chaplain program, which obviously aims to add chaplains to our public schools. This addition can greatly benefit students, teachers, and the entire school community. Chaplains have helped many people in fire stations, police departments, hospitals, and prisons, and it's time to extend this support to our schools. Having this experience in such high-stress environments shows off their credibility and capabilities. Schools face similar issues such as bullying and mental health concerns. Chaplains can play a pivotal role in supporting students in these areas. This will contribute to healthier emotional development for students and enable them to face the daily challenges they go through. This goes hand in hand with how chaplains can also support teachers who often face a lot of stress. This stress can lead to burnout and impact how well they teach. Being available to listen and offer guidance, chaplains help teachers stay strong, which benefits the entire school community. Chaplains also provide important help that is not limited to one religion. They are trained to assist people from all backgrounds, including those without faith. They meet students where they are, emotionally and mentally, not looking to judge the kids. In schools, where students face academic pressures and social challenges, having someone to listen to is super important. This support helps students grow and manage daily stresses, and is something I know that would have benefited me while I was in school. Chaplains trained to assist people from all backgrounds allows them to foster in diversity. Some may worry about chaplains pushing their beliefs onto others, but they are trained to respect all perspectives. In a diverse school, chaplains focus on the well-being of every student and staff member, ensuring no one feels left out. The chaplain program offers the chance to bring valuable support of chaplains into our schools. They can help students, no matter their background, and create a caring environment. Supporting this bill will strengthen our schools' communities and help everyone thrive. Keeping chaplains out of schools would be depriving students of a purely beneficial resource. Let's work together to ensure schools can succeed with this important resource, not only for the classmates I left behind, but for the future generations of students to come as well. Thank you.
Maribel Long.
Lang.
Lang, thank you.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Shanoff. I'm here as a teacher who works in Osceola County who has experienced firsthand the needs of our students. And I'm here to tell you how important this chaplain service is. This is a significant step forward in our endeavor to meet the students' needs both in and out of the classroom. Every day I find students in my school who are struggling with more than their academic coursework, struggle with social problems, emotional issues, psychiatric concerns. There are challenges that are outside of the scope of the usual lesson plan from the typical classroom, and yet they substantially impact a student's ability to learn, focus, and succeed. This chaplain service is a structure that contemplates students' welfare in a holistic way. It allows our schools to offer a wider array of mental health services and begins offering more direct services to the students who need it the most. I can't impress how important these resources will be for the students of today. They are facing stresses that are unparalleled, from academic stress to social dynamics, and in most cases, personal problems even at home. And too many of them lack the wherewithal to deal with it on their own. This chaplain service is important for educators and school leaders as it gives us the opportunity to identify needs much earlier on in student schooling, thus allowing timely interventions before problems escalate. Increasing the number of mental health professionals in school will afford students greater access to counselors who are both prepared, understanding, and fostering their emotional needs. This is so important because anxiety, depression, and traumatic experience can take a huge toll on academic performance and personal development if it's untreated. Moreover, this bill and this chaplain service, the collaboration of schools and families are a very vital part of children's success. It enhances the lines of communications and ensures that parents are engaging in the child's exposure to education, helping students not only to be supported in class, but also at home in a more cohesive support system around students. Too many students slip through the cracks because no one was there at the appropriate time to provide support. This service makes sure students who need help, it be with their mental health, due to behavioral challenges, or simply to catch up academically, will have a dramatically better shot at success. Let me close by reiterating that this is not a service only adding services, but about giving our students the best possible opportunity to reach their full potential. As educators, we are committed to helping our students grow academically, but we must commit to nurture their emotional and mental health, because one goes with the other. Thank you very much.
Erica L. Santana.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Erica Santana, and yes, I am a chaplain. I work at the Osceola County Jail. For the past 18 years, I served there. And there's been a quote that's always has resonated in my heart, and it's from Mr. Frederick Douglass. Quote, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken man." End of quote. Chaplains are not claiming to be mental health counselors. The jail itself has a mental health department which we work closely with. However, very often inmates prefer to speak with us because they don't want to be labeled as mentally incompetent or be put in isolation or given medications that they feel will not help them. They want to be listened without judgment. They desire to be understood and accepted. They want someone to have sympathy for them. And that's what we do. We add another layer of care. You see, most people that serve the public are burned out to a point where they lose their passion for helping others. We chaplains get our hands dirty. We walk the extra mile. We go beyond our human limits because our strength is drawn from a higher power. There's not a day that is like the other. We are faced with very deep and personal life scenarios. For example, when we give news to a parent that their 9-year-old who's on life support and doctors have decided to discontinue their care, in other words, pull the plug, a 15-year-old girl and her friend who have been gunned down in their neighborhood, we are not only responsible with the task of giving the news, but also answer questions, legitimate questions from someone who has lost a loved one. We build relationships with people that have committed mistakes. We make sure they know that there's hope. We see their potential if they would just stop the substance abuse or their self-destructive behavior. If they would forgive themselves of others that have caused pain and heartache in their lives. We see their potential if they would just have a role model, that father or mother that's not in their home. You see, these problems are challenges that they have been struggling with and suppressing it since childhood. I remember the time I heard an adult male crying relentlessly in our office while sharing the sexual abuse he endured when he was a younger child. A young female that got so badly beaten by a man who wanted to make her his sexual slave. So she had to literally fight for her freedom. All these are some examples of what we chaplains are faced in the field. Chaplains have been ordained and entrusted to serve our community in hospitals, hospice care facilities, businesses, armed forces, police departments, fire departments, embassies, global summit of sports, to name a few. So my question to you today, to this committee, if we have served our government and community since the 4th century, why is there so much opposition? Thank you so much.
Good evening, board members, parents, and students. I stand before you today not only as a former high school student, but as one who has experienced the emotional turmoil and challenges that many of our young people face during these very tender and sensitive years of our lives. Currently, I'm attending community college. While I'm excited about this new chapter in my life, I have to admit the road to get here did not come without challenge. There were times in high school where I would say I felt overwhelmed, stressed, uncertain, and personal problems that would make me feel stuck. And honestly, there would be periods in my life where I had no one to talk to. That's why I am so grateful that HB 1317 has passed. It is something that I feel will really change things for students like me, for those that didn't have someone to turn to, for those that needed someone to listen and someone to guide them. In high school, there were constant pressures to get good grades, pressures of furthering life goals, and even personal struggles. The ones you can't talk to a friend about, the ones you can't talk to a teacher about. Sometimes you need someone to hear you, that offer a safe place, and will offer guidance that we need but don't know how to ask for. Personally, I wish I had been a resource that this resource had been available in my high school years. I do believe that it would have made a big difference and perhaps would have helped through those difficult, confusing, and lonely moments. Now in college, I understand how important it is to be provided with spiritually and emotional support through tough times. It is not just academics. Sometimes we need someone in our corner to help us handle the emotional side as well. Wise counsel is crucial for the young people at this stage of life. I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't see the impact that talking to ministers changed my life and the life of my friends. I would like to stop the lie that these chaplains are predatory monsters that we are allowing into our schools, and I would rather share the view that these could be the last few years that hear the silent screams of desperate students. To all members of the school board, I would like to say thank you for the support on HB 1317 and for making it an option for students. Your responsibility for protecting the emotional and spiritual well-being of students cannot be taken lightly, and I know there are so many others that feel the same way that I do. Grateful that you made this possible. Thank you.
Ortiz.
Good afternoon, esteemed board members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And I am here to speak in favor of the chaplain policy in our county. Since 2021, we've seen a troubling rise in student absences worldwide. While there are many reasons behind this, the biggest issue lies in mental health. The pandemic, ongoing social challenges, and environmental stress have caused anxiety, depression, and trauma in our students. As a result, many students no longer feel connected to school, leading to widespread disengagement. Students are battling anxiety and depression, and that's the truth. The pandemic disrupted their routines. School closure, social isolation, and sudden shift to online learning broke the sense of normalcy. Returning to school triggered anxiety for many as they struggled to readjust or feared getting sick. There's also academic stress. Learning gaps from remote schooling put pressure on students to catch up. Some feel overwhelmed, fearing failure, or unpreparedness. Digital fatigue from online learning worsened this, making school feel exhausting rather than enriching. On top of that, trauma and grief weighed heavily. Many students lost loved ones or watched their families struggle financially. The burden of these experiences has left emotional scars, often manifesting as avoidance of school. Let's not forget the rise of bullying, both in person and online. Cyberbullying skyrocketed, contributing to anxiety and depression. Students are avoiding school not just because of academic stress, but also out of fear of social conflict. The numbers don't lie. Chronic absenteeism has doubled since 2019. In 2022 alone, 16 million students in the U.S. missed more than 10% of the school year. Mental health diagnoses in children have increased by 25%, and schools are now providing 30% more mental health services than they did in 2021. If we don't address this now, we'll see severe long-term consequences. Students falling behind academically become more disengaged and are at higher risk of dropping out. Social isolation makes it harder for them to develop the skills they need to thrive as adults. I attended nearby Gateway High School myself, and I know firsthand the importance of mental health support. I moved to Florida just months before starting school, not knowing English and struggling with anxiety and depression. I remember how difficult it was for me and my friends to navigate these challenges in silence, without the resources or opportunity to speak with someone about what we were going through. I can't help but wonder how much of a difference it would have made for my life. So why deny the opportunity to the students now? This isn't just an educational crisis, this is a mental health crisis. The disconnection, the mental struggles our children face, these are the root causes of their disengagement. We need to take bold action, provide more support, and help our students heal and reconnect with their education. We need to provide them with resources so they feel safe and comfortable coming to school again. Florida's legislation passed it. Governor DeSantis signed it. Let's do the right thing for our children and let's pass the chaplain policy. It's time. Thanks.
Yamilis Perez.
Blanca Perez.
Which one?
Is it Blanca Perez? No?
Yamilis. Y-A-M-I-L-Y-S.
No, not me.
Good evening, school board members. Thank you for letting me speak today. I am here today as a board-certified behavioral therapist who has experienced firsthand the needs of our students, and I am here to tell you of how important that implementation of Florida's new HB 1317 bill is. First, let's talk about school-based mental health services. Increasing the availability of school counselors and psychologists will directly address the mental health problems our students face. Students should provide a free open space where students can talk about emotional problems and get the right help. Next, we need to focus on parental and community involvement. Schools should work together with families and community organizations like chaplains and spiritual leaders to provide a well-rounded support. When we provide parents with resources to identify and respond to signs of mental health struggles, we help keep kids in school. Additionally, neurodivergent diagnoses along with mental health disorders have increased among Osceola County students within the age range of 12 to 18 years. These conditions have become more visible due to the shift in learning environments and the stressors associated with the pandemic. Schools need to adapt to these changes by expanding their support system. While the county has made progress in increasing the services, it still struggles with early identification and lacks the resources and capacity to fully meet the growing needs of these students. In the future, it's crucial that schools in Osceola County continue to prioritize mental health and neurodivergent support so that all students receive the help they need. This analysis highlights the current trends of neurodivergence and mental health disorders in schools across Osceola County and the impact the pandemic has had on our students. Mental health has been a key factor in the rise of absence in schools since 2021. This has caused anxiety, depression, trauma, and social problems for many students, which leads to disengagement from education, and that disengagement has long-term consequences. Addressing the challenges requires an integrated approach. School, family, mental health professionals, and communities must work together. Our efforts should aim to reference mental health, expand the support system, and create flexible school environments that promote both educational success and emotional well-being. I stand here today struggling to find a good reason, not even a good enough reason, just a good one, as to why we would limit our helping resources for our students. We are not telling them they are obligated to take the help. We're saying it is available for you. I believe everyone here has the common denominator. People behind me and people standing in front of me. That being the well-being of our students. And if that's the case, let's not contribute to limiting our helping resources. Thank you for your time.
Santiago?
Good evening, board members. Tonight, you've heard from several of Osceola County residents supporting HB 931 and HB 317. If this issue is not resolved today, more will come the next time because the news is spreading out. Osceola County, we are really concerned about the education system as well as the services that are being rendered to our community. So, therefore, Mr. Melendez, I do have a recollection of the past meeting. You expressed concerns about time and budget. However, this program is volunteer-based and requires no budget. In fact, the support offered by chaplains addresses the very problem you raised, teachers being overwhelmed. These professionals provide critical emotional support without burdening the educators. Their presence is crucial to maintaining a positive learning environment. Chaplains serve with no bias regarding race, gender, or religion, and they have proven their values in prisons, hospitals, and emergency services. Their presence can be the lifeline students need to prevent harm to themselves or others. This issue is about our students' well-being, not about individual board members or political motives. We ask you to vote based on your own convictions and consider whether you would want this type of support available to your own children. Please make a decision that truly represents the best interests of the students and the community. Please let it be known that in spite of your personal beliefs, a chaplain can be the last line of defense. They can prevent or foil school shootings, or about 98%, since about 98% of school shootings are planned by the attacker in advance. It helps also with teacher retention in a time in which we know that they're resonating at record levels. And it also allows for mitigating teacher burnout. And finally, Dr. Shanoff, I do have a question. I was present there on April 18th. I have a picture here with you being present when when the governor was signing that. I don't understand why is it that we can't come together and get behind Dr. Shenoff that he was present at the sign-off. Thank you very much.
Lori Pate.
Good evening. I'm here this evening to show my appreciation and to honor my friend, John Osceola. Over the past 4 years, John has been a steadfast champion for our community, upholding the values of integrity, responsibility, and leadership in every decision he has made. His desire to do what was right, often in the face of challenging circumstances, has ensured that our schools have remained focused on the principles that matter most, supporting families, promoting excellence, and fostering a safe, balanced environment for our children. His unwavering commitment to conservative values, despite almost always being the only one, will never be forgotten. Galatians 1:10 says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of God." You see, it's not about what you say to get elected. It's what you say once you sit in that seat. Thank you, John, for not just taking a stand, but occupying your seat for who you say you are.
Yes.
Mission accomplished.
Yes.
I know you will continue to be used by God in the political arena, but you will truly be missed as a member of the Osceola County School Board. And since I have some time left, I wasn't going to speak on the chaplain issue because I wanted it to be all about John. But these young people who have spoken tonight have compelled me to speak. I'm a retired teacher of 35 years, my last 10 in high school. And the courage that you young people, your parents should be so proud. And if we cannot leave every parent that has spoken out of the picture, these are the very students who are in the battlefield every day, who I know the struggles they deal with. They are begging for this. And if we can't listen to the very students that each of you represent, then what are you even doing? Thank you.
Good evening. Blanca Perez. I've stood before you in the past to remind you I do have a master's degree focused on treating children who need help to become better communicators. My training includes counseling coursework. I've spent 16 years in the public schools treating and helping students using evidence-based practices as required by the district. I currently work in private practice and was literally in a session with a child when this meeting started. Yet I would be discriminated against and not allowed to volunteer in this program as I'm not a member of the clergy. So please let's not pretend that this program is primarily for helping children. It's an attempt to place Christian clergy in the schools to further the agenda of one particular religious ideology. Facts matter, truth matters, and you were lied to earlier today. Miami did not pass the clergy program as it was pointed out, but I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to search it up for yourself. Religious services and churches are available every day to all of these students and these parents that are so concerned about their students needing this. They're already available. We're not saying that we're trying to block anyone from having this. If we really care about the children at school, let's let them focus on what we do at the schools. The requirements would be solely based on proper educational requirements, not religious requirements to become a counselor. I'm a parent, educator, and resident of Osceola County, and I oppose chaplains in the public schools. Thank you.
With that, we are on to 16.01, attorney comments.
I'm sorry, yes. I would just request that each board member send me dates that you would be available next month for an executive session. At the next school board meeting, I would like to announce an executive session for 2 pending cases, and I would do so.
Do we need to wait for the new board?
Yes, that would be a good idea to
We'll
wait
have
for you.
dates by the new board for you.
Yes. And that is all I have for this meeting.
We are on to new business 17.01 athletic team appeal process by board member Castillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The gentleman that spoke at the top of the public comments actually brought an issue to me as a constituent a couple weeks ago. He eloquently stated what his issue was. Since then, I did have conversations with Dr. Shanoff and his team regarding the appeals process. My goal with bringing this to the board was to bring awareness to the way that it works, because I did not know how it worked, and just to ensure that we had the proper system in place based on the conversation that I had. Is Shanoff here? Yes. Based on the conversation that I had with Dr. Shanoff, I do believe that the system is working correctly, although I know that this particular student's parents is not necessarily happy with the choice that was made for his student. I do know that that was one of 3 choices. One of the choices would have been not to have the student play at all, based on the way that the appeals process works. So that is why I brought it to the board. I didn't know if any other board member had any questions about the athletic appeals process, or Dr. Shanoff, if you're able to just give us a quick synopsis of the way that this works.
So I'll actually defer to Dr. Barrio, the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, as he oversees athletics. He's more familiar with the process and can speak to how this process actually works.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Shanoff, Superintendent. I just wanted to share the athletic appeals process. It's based on statute 1006.15. So we have a packet that we provide to all schools for when a parent requests for a student to appeal and being able to participate in athletics once a transfer comes in. So I'm going to read you some of the highlights of what the statute says and also what the packet says. Number 1, a student may transfer and participate in a sport mid-season even if they participate at another school if they meet one of the following criteria. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. It also says the first part of it says a student may not participate in the sport if the student participated in the same sport at another school during the school year unless the student meets the criteria in statute 1006. So, and then it says where they are given an exception are under these conditions. A, children of active duty military whose move resulted from military orders. B, children relocated due to foster care placement. C, children who moved due to a court order, change in custody due to separation, divorce, or serious illness or death of a custodial parent. And D, the appeal process in question, authorized for good cause in district and or reassignments by the district school board. So in that area where we have this determined because of a move that a student is ineligible, we send that information to the appeal process. And in the appeal process, we have a committee. The committee consists of the Chief of Staff of Human Resources and Student Services, 2 high school principals, representative from Student Services, in that case that's me, and representative from district leadership team. The gentleman mentioned that we have 2 principals that are not from the school. It's the reason that's put that way is because we want principals from a neutral standpoint so that there's no bias. And then we want to make sure that we have that appeals process with the same team to provide consistency in the decision making based on the appeal process that we've shared with all principals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Melendez. Yes, just to confirm or clarify, the process steps themselves, are those codified in statute, or are there other factors that we have
considered as well within Osceola County?
So the way we have the appeals process is based on the statute 1006.15, so everything is derived from that statute.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
This time is there.
I do not have an action for this. This was really mostly information because I had some questions regarding the process. Since this took a little bit longer to bring to the board, I had already spoken to Dr. Shanoff and team, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware because this might be something that comes up for other folks. I've never had a parent question it. This particular parent, although they did say that they wanted the appeal to be reconsidered, was mostly concerned about just making sure that the process was fair for everybody. Based on the conversations I've had, I believe it is, unless there is something additional that anyone else would like to bring up.
I have one question just to clarify from the gentleman that spoke earlier. He stated he said as a freshman?
Sophomore?
Oh, sophomore.
I believe he's a sophomore, yes.
So he does have time, junior year, senior year, to participate.
Yes.
The issue is the whole.
I think that's part of the conversation that we had as well.
Correct, that any student that comes in mid-year and then they come in back next year, like for example, a junior comes in, they're fully eligible to participate in sport next year or in any sports that haven't already started this year.
So the only issue is a transfer within the same school year.
Same school year and after the season starts.
I have Mr. Ramsey.
And I do believe, just to clarify, he made a statement, there was no JV team this year that was all canceled. There was, my son did play against Celebration.
Correct, there is a JV team there and their season, in terms of what my historical experience, is sometimes shorter for JV than for varsity.
They had like 6 games.
Correct.
Thank you. Garcia, your turn.
Yeah, just one final question, because I do believe that this is important. There is no hindrance of this student being able to be placed in varsity because they were pushed back to JV. This is basically like brand new year, there's no baggage.
Correct. Once a student tries out for varsity, let's say they're a junior or a senior and they've come in before the season has started, the coaches make the decision based on who performs the best during tryouts.
Thank you. Mr. Arguello, your reference?
The bottom line in this situation is that there's no long-term damage to the student's potential career in collegiate athletics. He, in fact, if he plays now for 2 games, well, it doesn't matter, it doesn't change his eligibility at all, right?
Correct.
Because it's the same amount of time regardless.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
the dad just wants 2 additional games for film.
For this season, my experience has been that
He
football
wants to
players.
have varsity.
Right, my experience has been with the students that go to play in varsity, most of the recruiters go watch them their junior and senior year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, depending, regardless.
Correct.
Thank you. I did have one final question. In this particular case, yes, the student does have an additional 2 years, but if this had happened to someone who was a junior potentially or a senior, they would not have another opportunity to play varsity. So my additional question is, and I'm just asking as an advocate for someone who brought me an issue, is there an appeals process for the appeals process, or is this just a hard stop?
This is a hard stop, and so the reason we have the appeals committee is so that it's fair and neutral.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Arguello?
The only recommendation that I have is that maybe we should add parents to that committee, because it's one thing if you have nothing but people that work for the school, you're gonna get the same result. What the school's asking for, that's what's gonna happen. So if you add parents to the committee, are there parents? Is that what you're gonna tell me? No? Okay, so.
No, there are potential FERPA violations. If you have another parent make a judgment on another student's program, and there may be mitigating factors that are not public and cannot be public relative to their eligibility coming from another school, I would not put the school district in that position.
But they could probably sign waivers, the parent that's asking for the parent that is asking for the hearing would be able to sign or request, or sign a waiver essentially, so that somebody else can participate.
Requiring a parent to sign a waiver about their child's privacy rights in order to
Nobody said
receive an
required.
appeal.
You can, right? You
But
can.
in order for them to get a full appeal, they would have to sign that waiver to give another parent rights, is essentially hindering their right to an appeal if they don't want to
If
give
you
those
assume, right,
rights.
so essentially, let's say that I'm a parent, I'm going through the appeal process, so I have a choice. I can either take the committee as it is, or I can take a committee with parents, but I have to sign a waiver in order to do that. I mean, the only reason is because if it's a full stop, then whenever the district has a full stop, then it needs to be full fair, right? And I would imagine right now that it's not full. Not that I disagree with the outcome in this situation, but the fact is it's not fair. It's not fair. It's basically, it's just like an expulsion hearing. If you didn't have an expulsion hearing, the only thing that you had was a bunch of principals and administrators around the dais deciding whether a child's gonna be expelled at the recommendation of one of their friends, he's gonna be expelled every single time. So it's very hard to come up with what is fair for the parent in this case. So for me, if I were that parent and I was offered, then I would make the best judgment that I can for my child, which is I'm gonna sacrifice the privacy aspect so that I can get a fair hearing, or I'm gonna take my chances depending on what is being, ruled on, right, the circumstances. Anyway, that's my output. 15 minutes. So whatever you decide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now on to 17.02, Religious Freedom and Travel and Access Policy by Board Member Aguirre. You are recognized.
Thank you. Today, more teachers and administrators, by percentage, have more kids in private school, especially parochial schools, than ever before. It's not even close. The percentages of increase in educators' kids in private school is higher than ever before. And why is that? Perhaps it's because school boards are aligning themselves to become Team Satan that wants us to believe that chaplains hurt kids. That we know that that's just not true. Our kids are hurting today and there are no chaplains. So we can make the decision to try to help our students and do everything that we can to reach for every resource that we can provide every student, or we can ignore the problem and we can pretend that this is not about politics, because that's the only reason that you would negate this. If a van came down the street with piles and piles and piles of cash saying, hey, Dr. Shanoff, could you use this program? I guarantee you Dr. Shanoff would say, park it right here. But here we have a program that could save us piles and piles of cash, but more importantly, piles and piles and piles of broken children. And for us to say, no, thank you, you're not welcome here, because a few Satanists or some person with an upside down cross hanging around their neck is going to come here and say, I don't like the program because I don't like Christians to have access to their chaplains, is nothing but anti-Christian bigotry. That's the decision to be made here today. Are we going to allow families to find the resources that we need? Because if this was, let's say, for example, that if this was a situation where students of color were having access to teachers of color, but no, it could only be right? It had to be separated. Then all the political people in the room who are making this decision based on politics would say, you can't do that. Of course you can't do that. But with Christians, you're allowed to discriminate and pain and hurt and ridicule and lie. And that's all these are, is lies. Religious freedom is not a Satanist determining that Christians can't see a chaplain. That's not what the founding fathers thought that freedom was, religious freedom. There's no test, there's no requirement. Those are fear tactics. Never in my mind, when I won an elected office, did I think that I would be fighting Satan on a school board. This agenda item requires the district to affirm religious freedom and guarantee access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through policy to be written by the district personnel and implemented by December 25th. And I motion that this item be carried out.
Mr. Melendez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for public disclosure purposes, when I spoke to the attorney, because there was discussion about Miami-Dade, having a chaplain policy, yes or no. So just for purposes, I was asking her to do some research because I wanted to kind of get the fact. And then I also asked the superintendent if he knew as well. And what I ended up getting to find out was that Miami-Dade passed a pilot program to look at it, but they never actually passed the policy into codification. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'm not here to point fingers or call people's names, but the fact is Miami-Dade did affirmatively vote to look at it, but hasn't yet voted to codify it into policy. Now, somebody did mention something that was very interesting, that the policy has been written already, and I've had multiple opportunities to look at the different iterations and speak to different issues. One person did mention the fact that that this is a parental consent thing, and this is also a student consent, I believe, as well. Is a policy able to have language to say a student is opting to participate in this?
A draft policy could have whatever the school board would want in the policy.
Correct.
I do just have to state that no policy has been noticed for the board meeting tonight to be voted on.
Correct, but yeah, I did remember looking at the initial draft, but I would second the motion for it to get on to the next level and be able to have, the policy written down and then gone through the policy process and be picked out for the next board. Because I do believe that the next board should have the opportunity to review this. Because even though I may not be fully for it, but I can understand the issues on both sides. And I believe in advancing this forward to allow the next board to make that final decision that they have to live with. Because I do know my board member that's taken over me, she's very religious as well. And I don't want to hamstring her ability to be able to pass a policy that she feels effective. And at the end of the day, this is something that's parent opting in. If they don't like it, they can choose not to do it. And so I don't want to sit here and stop a potential student from getting the help that they need. So I would second the motion by Mr. Williams.
I'm going to take a point of privilege for a moment. You spoke, Mr. Melendez, just now about allowing the next board. At the previous meetings, when this has been voted on and voted down, it was stated to staff that a majority of the board wished to put this into rulemaking, and that would happen when the next rulemaking cycle is. So as far as I was concerned, that is what was going to take place. Dr. Shanoff, can you confirm that that was the discussion we had?
So that was the discussion that we had, was to put it into the rulemaking cycle, and to gather, input and put it into the rulemaking cycle. Yes.
It did not receive a full rulemaking cycle when it was first put into rulemaking the original time.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I wasn't under that impression. That's what I thought the impression of this was. I thought it was voted down completely, and now we're voting friendly to put it back into the at least that's what my interpretation was.
Mr. Ramsey, you're recognized.
I was just gonna second it, but Julius beat me to it, so I'll third it.
I'd like to know though, Mr. Melendez just stated to put it into rulemaking. Is that what your motion was?
Well, to be honest, I'm not the motion maker. You have to
I know,
ask
that's what I'm asking. No, I'm
Make the
asking
motion.
Mr.
Okay, so I'm
Arguello.
gonna call for a vote here.
Was the vote to put it into rulemaking?
I'm gonna call for a vote for my motion, which I read, and it's already been seconded and actually been thirded. So if we can take a vote.
Can you repeat the motion?
Yes, this agenda item requires the district to affirm religious freedom and guarantee access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through policy to be written and implemented. I have by December 25th, so I would say to at the next available, which Dr. Boyd's not here, right? Mr. Boyd, Dr. Shanoff, do you know what that policy-making timeframe is?
I don't offhand, but I can find out. Do you know, Tony?
Dr. Shanoff.
You have it?
Yes, so in order to have a policy, you do have to go through the rulemaking process and you will have to put the notice in the register and you would have to give 14 days notice. If the motion today requires the next school board to approve a policy, that would be de facto approving a policy tonight. So that would be a concern from a legal standpoint pursuant to chapter 120. A motion tonight could require the next school board to review a policy, but it could not require the next school board to approve a policy because that's effectively approving a policy tonight that has not been noticed yet.
This is not a policy, it's instructions for the district to write a policy that guarantees access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through a policy to be written and implemented. Are you looking for the date, Tanya?
I was just informing Dr. Shanoff what the rulemaking cycle workshops were.
The rulemaking first rulemaking cycle would be November 19th. And then that is one hearing. The second hearing is December 10th. I don't know though whether or not from the second rulemaking it then goes to the next meeting, correct?
It can, or depending on what happens at that rulemaking session, if the school board at that point requests additional drafts and changes that are very substantive, it could then go back to another rule review before it went to the school board for a final vote.
That being the case, then it looks like the agenda item is perfectly within the requirements that are set forward. It's plenty of time. It's by the second, my date was just December 25th, and that first meeting is before that. So I don't mind lifting the requirement of the date. I instead will do it by that policy timeframe, by that December policy meeting.
The concern is, from a legal standpoint, requiring the next board to implement a policy is requiring them to adopt a policy that they have not yet determined that they want to adopt. So that would be a de facto voting on a policy this evening. Voting to put it into rulemaking is one thing, but voting to require the next board to implement a policy is effectively approving a policy for the next board this evening.
For them to be able to make adjustments to the policy, which policy can be changed at any point in the rulemaking process, does not seem problematic to me. At any point in time, they can kick it. And so then essentially this is just a requirement for the district to write the policy, to submit it into rulemaking, which the next board will enact.
Again, the issue is with enact, it
Well,
would have to be.
they're gonna vote on it.
And that would be fine. So if it's requiring the school district to write a draft policy to go through rulemaking that the next board will vote on, that is appropriate. But if we are stating that they will enact it, then that is where the language becomes problematic.
I will restate my motion to require the district to affirm religious freedom and guarantee access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through policy to be written and submitted into the rulemaking process by December 25th.
The concern again would be, you just stated.
That's submitting the program, that's not asking for the votes, the approval, is that by that second time frame that we would have submitted the policy for approval.
Would you please state the beginning language of your statement again?
I had a question about the word for the beginning.
Yes, and that's my concern. If it's saying that the board is going to affirm.
This agenda item requires the district to affirm religious freedom and guarantee access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through policy to be written and submitted to rulemaking for vote by December 25th.
And the issue would be guaranteeing access. This board stating
That's in
that
the policy,
next
this
board
now,
is
that's
going
not,
to
that's
guarantee
poor legal
access.
doctrine. That's a policy that we're instructing the district to write for approval by the future board by December 25th. I mean, apparently you don't like the policy. However, the fact is there's nothing in that statement. This agenda item requires the district to affirm religious freedom and guarantee access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through policy to be written. So that's it, so it's just being
Mr.
written.
Arroyo, that I have submitted a draft policy with recommendations to Dr. Shanoff, so please do not put words into my mouth.
And stood up and, I'm not gonna argue with you, you're the attorney, you've given your opinion, thank you very much. The board has been, okay, so the motion is seconded, can we take a vote?
Is the new motion seconded?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Arroyo, a second by second by Mr. Ramsey. Can I clarify, so you're stating to put it into the rulemaking cycle?
This agenda item requires the district to affirm religious freedom and guarantee access to all programs that are legal and available, including a chaplain program, through policy to be written and implement and voted on by December 25th.
Dr. Shanoff, you recognize?
So, I'm still unclear. Are you asking for a policy proposal to go into rulemaking at the next rulemaking cycle, which is November 19th? So then the board can consider it as part of that rulemaking cycle?
Yes.
Okay. So is it possible, I don't wanna put words in anybody's mouth.
This is a compound motion at this point because
Right,
it
this
has
is not a
two
compound
parts,
motion.
so it would have to be voted separately. One part is requiring the board to state that they're going to guarantee access to religious freedom.
That's untrue, that's the language of the motion, that's the language of the policy, which is to be determined. It's the subject in which is supposed to be taken up by the policy review process. So that's not a compound motion, it's a motion for the district to act. What are they acting? They're going to write a policy that guarantees religious freedom and access to all programs that are legal and available. There is no compound requirement there or,
Is it already in rulemaking? Like, has it stuck, the draft has been written?
Yes.
The draft's been written, yes.
The draft's been written, so
has it been submitted?
Yeah, has it been submitted?
It's been submitted to
Mr.
Boyd, but it hasn't been released, but it is for consideration.
So what John's wanting to do is to get that, saying that it will be submitted to be voted on, go through the rulemaking process, correct, John?
Well, here's the thing, I don't wanna, instead of giving you what my intentions are, I'm just reading this over and over and over again so that there's no mistake as to what I'm saying, I'm reading it into the record. If, let's just put all facades aside, if what the board is trying to do to prevent me from being the one that motions for the chaplain program, I am more than happy to cede the process to you, sir. You make the motion. No, it's not against you. I'm just saying that you're willing. So you make the motion so that they're comfortable voting yes, and I'm more than happy to second, or not second, someone else can second it, and I'll just vote yes.
But I think what it is what they're both telling me is it's the wording of what you're saying, how you're saying it.
Right, that's incorrect, and that's bad legal advice.
Okay, well,
But, sir, Mr. Ramsey, if you would like, you make the motion to put the process into the rulemaking, and I'm more than happy to support you in the.
Mr. Argway would need to withdraw his motion in order to do so.
If Mr. Ramsey is willing, I'm more than happy to do that.
I'd like to make a motion to put.
I will withdraw my motion.
I'm gonna make a motion, I'd like to make a motion to put the draft into motion that's already been written for the rulemaking process for November, whatever the date is.
For consideration of the board.
Yeah, for consideration of the board.
I'll second.
I wanted the second to try to amend that.
I have a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. Arguello, with comment by Mr. Melendez. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because the one thing I wanted to codify in that policy was that the child has an ability to opt into. That it's not just the parent saying, this is something that I want. There has to be something where there's some kind of
That would be a violation of the Parents' Bill of Rights.
Right.
If a parent has a minor child, a parent directs the
Okay,
decision.
this is, okay, all right, if that's the case, then I rescind that part too. I just wanted, because I heard, I wanted to be able to say,
With all due
okay,
respect,
so
Mr.
parents-
Melendez, we've had the greatest discussions. I just could not advise that due to the Parents' Bill of Rights.
I have a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. Argoyo. Mr. Argoyo, if your light's on, is that just for me not turning it off?
Yes.
Do you have a comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. With that, we are on to 18.01. I am not going to forget committee reports this time. I am
Congratulations.
asking everybody on the dais if they have any committee reports. Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, basically, we have, law enforcement, I just wanna make it really quick because everyone's busy. The big issue nationally is that SROs are under scrutiny, just like anything else, about, potential negative ramifications of the increase in the expulsions and disciplinary referrals. But there's an issue that some people are taking, that there's not enough positive statistics on what they do. Like, nobody's gathering data as far as like, how many times an SRO is a mentor, how many times they give them counseling to referral services to see some kind of social services. So I don't know if the school district then is capable of collecting certain data points when an SRO has a positive interaction with the student. You know what I'm saying? Like, gave them a referral. Because, in other words, the state's not compelling us to collect that data, so they're not collecting that data. So there's some districts, not us, like in California, that want to get rid of police. They're looking at the data that is already provided by student services. So student services is giving them information and they don't have a counter point. So that was the main thing that came out, was that there's a movement to try to collect the positive interaction data before that, so that way they get a full picture of the SRO interactions.
Thank you. Mr. Argoyo? Any committee reports?
None.
I do have one item, the FCCS board meetings. We need to choose a date where 3 of us will be able to be in attendance for the October meeting because it has to be rescheduled. So I need some dates by board members for that meeting. For Ms. Culver.
October. I suppose that October 29th at 2 p.m. is probably the best time for me. I have any intention.
October 29th at 2 p.m. The third board member, Ms. Culver, Mr. Melendez, October 29th.
It's you.
Four Corners Charter.
Oh, the Four Corners, oh, the one that was canceled for today.
Yes.
October 29th at 2 p.m.
If that's what everyone else can do, I'll just go ahead and do it.
I mean, do you have the time?
I'll make time, this is my job. I get paid for it, so I do it.
Okay, perfect.
Ms. Castillo, do you have any committee reports?
Yes. I guess whoever is available to attend FSBA, we have a legislative update. The Finance Committee is meeting on November 15th. If anybody is interested in learning about some of the new policies that we're going to be implementing that you will be voting on as general membership, I would be more than happy if you attend that, and that is the only report that I have. November 15th at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Mr. Ramsey, any committee reports?
No, ma'am.
With that, this meeting is adjourned.